So being trans certainly is not easy. There are so many rewarding aspects about it too. So in honor of Pride Month, as you can see with what I'm wearing, I want to share some of my favorite things about being transgender. And just maybe, this will help you on your journey of embracing your true self as well. Well, the first thing is probably obvious. I am finally living my life as me. Sure, we all know that it is fucking hard to be trans. Some days with the dysphoria or discrimination or microaggressions or just simply being or feeling misunderstood by so many other people. You know, we show up as ourselves, and that's not always meant with the love we know we deserve. But being able to finally live authentically is such a breath of fresh air. I hated putting on a costume for so many years, for 25 years, putting on this costume of being a boy, of being a man. It just never ever fit right. And throughout much of my pre-transition life, I'd never thought there were other options. I thought it was just something that I kind of had to deal with. I never thought that it would be possible to live my life as a woman, to live my life as me. And just these new possibilities is just one of the many things that's so amazing about being trans. And after years of hard work, there are still so many days where I look in the mirror and I just think, or even say out loud, like, wow, this is me. This feels like a dream come true. I can't believe that, like, this is my life. You know, sometimes I have this fear of just like, I'm gonna wake up one day and gonna be like, all these past years were a dream, because I'm finally able to just live my life. Something that I never thought was possible, and sometimes, you know, I just think it's too good to be true. And, you know, I don't always love my body, but where I'm at now, how I feel now, is just incomparably better than the amount of depression that I felt as I was just drifting through life as a man. You know, I use the words drifting through life because I feel like I was generally just kind of floating through life without a purpose. And, you know, one of my other favorite things about being trans is that I finally have a purpose in my life too. I finally found fulfillment. Once I started figuring out this little thing called gender, the other pieces just started falling into place. You know, for one, I finally found a career path that's fulfilling for me. You know, I knew for a while that engineering just wasn't really what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what to replace that with. It was kind of just like, yeah, engineering kind of sucks. This is all I have. I don't really know what I do actually like that I'd want to do for a career. Then through my transition, through going to therapy, getting involved in, you know, community groups, support groups, you know, helping people in the trans community, just starting to get involved in all these different organizations, really centering around like helping LGBT people or just helping people, you know, embrace themselves, whether or not they're queer, whether or not they're trans. You know, I started to realize that I really just wanted to be there and help people on a much deeper, more emotional level than I would ever be able to do in engineering. And of course, especially want to help the trans community. You know, anything that I could do to make other people's transitions just a teeny bit easier than mine, a teeny bit easier than, you know, people who transitioned before me, just kind of making it a little bit easier each passing year, with each new group of trans people coming out each year, just making their journeys a little bit easier. Like, it's still difficult, and it's probably going to be difficult for a long time, and I know what I dealt with was not nearly as difficult as what, you know, trans people who transitioned 5, 10, 20, 30 or more years before me. But we're moving in a positive direction. I want to be part of that work to keep moving us there. Like, I look at the things I'm doing now and I just think it's so cool to be doing research on a variety of different trans issues, doing this YouTube channel, interviewing people about their experiences, providing resources to y'all. You know, I've been invited to multiple conferences to talk on trans issues, whether it's my own experiences or related to my psychology research or some of the community work that I do. And I've even taught a variety of workshops and workplace and organizational trainings specifically to make places, more spaces, more inclusive for trans people. And it's just so cool to think that I can do all these things. Engineering was simply just a way to earn money, a way to live. But now I feel like I'm truly actually living in the work that I'm doing. It's actually fulfilling me on a personal level and not just like a monetary level. It's exhausting, and maybe, just maybe, I'll finally be done with school one day, but it's going to be worth it once in 3 years. Once I'm done with this exhausting PhD program. I'm feeling tired just thinking about it. So moving on to other fulfilling things. In figuring out my gender, I finally started to figure out how to connect with myself on a deeper level, how to connect with my mind, how to connect with my mind and body, how to integrate those two in a way where I could just finally feel connected to something on a deeper emotional level. And it's hard to explain exactly what that feels like, but it's just I don't feel dissociated from my body. I don't feel like I'm constantly trying to distract myself or constantly trying to ignore life or find literally anything to channel my attention and energy into, because I actually like existing in my body for the first time in my life. Prior to transitioning, I also had hardly any close relationships with others. It makes sense looking back. How could I deeply or easily connect with other people when I wasn't able to deeply or easily connect with myself? Yeah, that sounds probably cliche and cheesy, but I truly believe that we have to unpack our own shit and before we can start connecting with other people. We have to figure out what we need to fully be present in our own bodies and lives before we can be present in relationships with other people. So many years of my life, I didn't really know who I was, and I didn't know who to be or how to be around other people. I was taught at a young age that I could not be certain ways. I could not be feminine. I could not be emotional. I could not cry. I could not be friends with girls. And it's just what the fuck can I do? The things that society told me I could do as a boy, as a man, were just this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel natural. So let me just retreat into this little isolated shell. Once I finally embraced who I was, connecting with others came so much more naturally. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. People could finally just see me and see that I am being authentically me. People can see that kind of energy that we give off when we're finally just exuding happiness, exuding energy, exuding just a willingness to be present in our own lives. There wasn't that wall or barrier anymore. I didn't have to hide parts of who I was from myself or from others anymore. In the nearly 6 years since I started my transition, I have made the closest friendships and connections that I have ever had in my entire life. Even closer connections with people that I knew before my transition, like my parents. Obviously I knew my parents before my transition. But, in my transition, I've even had the most fulfilling romantic relationship that I've ever had. Dating is definitely much, much more difficult as a queer trans woman compared to when the world saw me as a straight cis guy. At least the options are far more limited, and there's a lot more negative assumptions associated with the fact that I am both trans and lesbian, but let's not get into that here. Bigger picture, I can finally be myself in dating relationships, even though it's harder or fewer and far between. They're still so much more fulfilling. This has finally also given me a chance to focus on myself, something that I was never doing before transitioning, probably for obvious reasons. But, spending a lot more time just being okay, being on my own. I don't need to be in a relationship with somebody else. I want to be, but I don't need it. Before I drone on and on and on, in coming out and living my life as Chloe, it's really just has been such a huge breath of fresh air. I let go of so much baggage that was holding me back. A costume that was never meant for me. Like I said, being trans is obviously not easy. The process of transitioning is not easy. Being trans is not easy. Walking through life openly identifying as being trans is not easy. Not always being passable is not easy. But I knew that it was worth it from the start. I knew that where I was in my life, I had to at least give myself the chance to try being true to who I am. And I'm so thankful that I've gotten to where I am today, and I still know that stepping stone towards transition was so worth it. I wouldn't change it. I mean, if I could change things, the only thing would probably be like transitioning earlier. Transitioning before my first puberty. But, I can't do that. I am where I am now, and I'm happy with how things turned out. I could probably go on and on, but I'd love to hear your reactions. What are your favorite parts about being transgender? What do you do to truly embrace yourself? How has that impacted your relationships with others and your relationship with yourself? As always, thank you so much for watching. Tipsy and I love you all so very much. We hope that you're staying safe, as healthy as possible during these tough times. If you have not done so already, please be sure to give this a thumbs up, click that subscribe button and notification bell. Bye for now.